What's happening, everyone? This is the LFC transfer room, and today's stream we're going to do a little overview of pre-season, comments Klopp's made about Nunes, Bobby Firmino's future again, as there's more reports, and I've got two guests with me to discuss all that. So we've got Tino. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. All good. I'm glad the pre-season's sort of finally over. We've got I'd say a proper game on Saturday. It is a proper game in a way. It's a bit more competitive in it. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, whenever you play a title rival, it's always a proper game, unless it's a proper friendly. Drew, how about you, mate? How are you?
Doing good. Looking forward to the game on Saturday. Got my own league game tonight, so hoping both performances tonight and then on the weekend are up to par. How you doing, Jay?
Fingers crossed for you, mate. All good, mate. All good. I'm the same as you two boys. Excited for Saturday because the championship starts as well. Obviously, not too worried about the championship, but football's football at this point. I need it back in my life. So we'll start off with pre-season then, boys. So I'll start with you, Drew. What have you made of pre-season so far? How do you think it's gone?
I think it's gone decently. I think more than anything else, it was just getting everyone up to fitness. I think some preseasons have just been electric where we're just smashing teams left and right. But I think this one was more about getting minutes in the legs, making sure no one gets injured, which isn't necessarily the case. But I think for me, the most important thing was getting Darwin Nunez off and running, at least in terms of goals, because I thought the pressure on him there was, it was much. It was only like 45, 50 minutes of game time, but that pressure would have just added and added if he didn't score goals. So I'm glad he got off the mark. I'm glad everyone looks up to speed. And as far as the results, I don't think they really matter. I think a lot of players look sharp. Carvalho in particular, I think it'll be really interesting to see if he's got a first team role from the get-go. I think he certainly will get some sub appearances early and maybe worm his way in. Same with Harvey Elliott. So really excited. It just looks like the lads have a lot of energy more than anything else. And, really excited to see the test against Manchester City.
Yeah, definitely. It will be a test. No doubt about that. And what about you, Tamo? What have you made of pre-season so far? Have you been happy with the results concern you, or is it all just about getting fit at this stage and sharp?
I think it's an hard pre-season to normalise. It's quite a weird one. I usually take it a bit more seriously, but this time I sort of step back a little bit more. I still don't like losing to Man United, no matter whether it's a pre-season, whether it's in backyard. I can't stand that, and especially losing 4-0. That hurt a slight little bit. I know it's a friendly, but it's Man United at the end of the day. But yeah, I sort of made it look at it as looking at individuals rather than the team itself. I sort of maybe who's ready for the season sort of thing. I think like Drew said, Carvalho is definitely ready for the season. He has been an absolute, definitely a standout in the preseason. If we had to pick any positives in the preseason, it would be with one of them. Elliott again, another standout player in preseason. Salah looks on it, but then on the other spectrum, there's a few that I'm like, I'm not really too happy about at the moment. But let's just see when the season starts.
Shout out to some of the regulars, Taylor and Jen. I can see it in there. Jen's just said that. Unlucky result yesterday. Thought we played well. Some exciting performances from Carvalho and the young chap and Nunes. Very good. So, with that being said, what did you make of the game last night today? What did you think of the performance?
I thought it was a bit, nothing too much to take from it. I thought it was, chop and change for that starting sign where you had some potential starters, a lot of fringe players, and some youngsters. So hard to judge any fluidity there. I think Salzburg's already 2 weeks into their season, so I think it was quite evident that they were going in hard. Like some of those early challenges were like, oh God, I kept thinking, oh, it's supposed to be a friendly, but for them, I definitely can see why they continued at that level, because you don't want to drop a level like once you're started in the seasons, even So like going full throttle, I thought we definitely didn't have that mentality going into the game. But once I thought the last 30 minutes when all the starters came on, like that lineup will be our lineup against City. Firmino up top, Diaz, Salah, midfield. I think it was Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, and then the back four, and Adrian probably slipping in for Alisson while he's injured. But I thought that was likely our starting 11, and I thought there were some really bright moments. And what I liked about that part of the game was there was a lot more directness. I know with Nunez, we were playing him in the back, trying to link him in. He hit the crossbar, so there were some bright moments. But I think towards the end of last season, we got a bit tired, a bit leggy, and you saw the ball just go like switching back and forth without much direct penetration or trying to link up from the midfield to the attack. The one exception I can remember is like the semifinal against Man City, where the ball was little quick touches in the middle of the park, like right at the edge of the opposition box. I liked seeing that, like relying on our link up play in those moments. So I think Damon shouted out Salah looked really, bright over preseason. I think he just looks really sharp. Like he's got, his batteries are completely full. So I'm looking forward to that. But as far as the result, I don't put much in it. Performance overall, I thought it was a bit slow, but I think at that stage, you're not trying to meet the aggression of Salzburg, especially with the start of the season around the corner.
You're definitely right about the physicality. That right back, if that was an actual proper game, he probably could have been sent off in the first 10 minutes. He was just kept going through Carvalho, didn't he? Same for you, Damo. So, what did you make of last night's game? Anything concern you? Anything that you liked? What did you take from it?
I think it summed up the whole pre-season. To be honest, I think it was just one of them where result obviously don't matter, but dominance didn't really show, did it? In the end, I mean, I think we just basically surrounded their box for the entire game, and not getting a goal is quite disappointing. And I think Nunez, apart from the game that he scored 4 goals in, apart from that, he's missing some sitters, unfortunately, and it's not what you want to see. I know he's only new and coming in, but this is our guy now. We don't have Mane this season. We don't have Taki and Origi on the bench. And Firmino might even leave. Like we might speak later on, he might even leave yet. So, we need him to not hit the ground running, but we do need him to put in some goals. We're not paying 65 million for a player that's going to come in and not score. I have faith in him. We've got to give him time. Maybe a couple of games. I mean, Fulham is a perfect game to start up on in terms of the league. You can't get a better game than that if you want to go score a goal against Fulham. So, but again, I step back from the team performances at whole and looked at individuals, and I come back round to Curtis Jones again, because everyone's saying Curtis Jones used to be a winger, so it's a bit hard for him to now play in the centre mid role. But last night, I saw him on the left-hand side countless times with acres of space to run at. And as a winger, your first and foremost is to drive down that wing. And especially Jones is like an attacking sort of minded midfielder, isn't he? So he's got to drive in that space. And he sort of tends to either turn around and pass it backwards or pass it sideways. And that, it just don't cut it for me. And you know what? I've got a lot of faith in Curtis Jones' ability, but I ain't got any faith in him doing it on an occasion. And every week, it's just once in a blue moon, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from yesterday's game. He didn't stand out as one of the better performers, but with that through, is there anyone that you've seen in pre-season that stood out for you, who you think might challenge to get in the 11 next season, or was there anyone that you thought was really bad?
I'll start with the bad part first. I thought Keita was quite poor. I think he was pretty sloppy in possession, misplacing passes, and again, it's preseason, getting up to speed. Who knows? He could get on against Fulham, score a goal, and I've seen him do that in the past. I'm thinking when he had that stretch where he scored against Porto, I think he scored in 3 games in a row at that point of the season. I think we all know his quality and his talent and what he can bring. I think it's frustrating when you don't see it game in, game out. I think this is really like I remember reading early on that we were looking to tie him down to a new contract, but I'm wondering if the preseason has changed Klopp's mind and whether or not it's worth signing him down, because we know he gets injured a lot. Although last season he was pretty healthy, but even though he was pretty healthy, he didn't. It was almost like he was in the squad the majority of the time because we didn't have any other options, and that's never a good position to be in if you're only in the team because there's no one else. But on the other side, I think it has to go back to Carvalho. I think I was one who didn't really expect him to feature at all, really, in this upcoming season. I thought maybe he'd get some minutes on the bench. Maybe in the first half of the season, he'd get the odd game just from the compact fixture list that we're playing almost 3 games a week for the lead up into the World Cup. But I didn't really see him featuring prominently. But that's I think the question of our midfield is an open door for him if he wants to take it. I know Damon was saying that Curtis Jones is primarily a winger in the youth system getting up, but it seems like his route into the team was through the midfield, and it's not like he's taking either or at this point. Versus Trent, who is a midfielder in the youth setup, and he's nailed on arguably best right back in the world. I think at that stage, like in the youth setup, you kind of have to grab whatever opportunity is there. You can't be like, well, I'm a right winger. It's like, well, Mo Salah's, standing in your way. If you think you can beat him, go for it. But if there's an opening position on right midfield, it's like, why aren't you trying your best to make that spot yours? I think youth team has to be, or the younger players have to just see an opening and take it wherever it is on the park. Obviously not like center back or something crazy like that, but I think that midfield open door is there for Carvalho and Elliott to step up. And I think those are the two that have absolutely shined in preseason. Elliott's looking like, oh, yeah, hey, he was playing a huge role in the first 4 games of the season. And if he didn't get injured, he probably would have nailed on that spot. So I'm curious to see if he or Carvalho or some mixture of the two can get in the door, because I think that spot's open for someone, because we don't have that creative midfielder at the moment, that attacking creative threat.
I think pre-season sort of highlighted our worries, hasn't it, a little bit more. Like, we were worried already coming into the season with our midfield. I don't think pre-season's really calmed us down. Do you think, Jay?
I think I'm glad what Drew said about Keita, because Ian Doyle's done a piece today on Twitter on the FO saying Keita impressed, and I said I must have missed something, and he tweeted me back and said, yeah, you did. He settled 3 chances, and I don't know what he was watching, because I seen what Drew saw is his passing was off. When he shoots, he reminds me of a kid on the schoolyard who can't quite hit the ball in the air yet.
He shoots with them flyaway balls, doesn't he? Those flyaway
balls.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't be giving him a new contract, especially given the wage that he's already on. He's on, I think, 120, 130,000 now. New contract, you'd imagine that would be on improved terms, which I don't see how anyone could justify that. And even on the same level of pay, I don't think he's done enough to warrant that, to be honest. So if we could get shut, I would, but I don't see it happening. But I'll ask you next, Damon. So, was there anyone that stood out for you over pre-season, whether it be positive or negative?
Apart from Carvalho, I think definitely Salah and Elliott. I think those are the other 2 standout players. I mean, Salah, we were worried about Salah when coming after AFCON, because he wasn't the same Salah as he was before he went. I mean, he was the world's best player before he went to AFCON, and when he came back, it's like, I don't know if it was the hanging over of the contract over his head. I think that could have played its part, because at the end of the day, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know whether they were going out or coming. So now he knows he's staying. I think it sort of settled him. And that is quite scary for the rest of the league, because if Salah's on it this season, he could forget talking about Núñez, Haaland, Kane for top goal scorer. Salah is eyes on for that prize. So, and he's rightly so the favourite for the Golden Boot, because when he's on it, he's on it. Other than that, apart from like Curtis Jones didn't really impress me. I'm worried with Adrian in it. I hope Alisson is back. I can't believe we're this long into a clock here and we've still got Adrian starting in goal this week for us in a Charity Shield final. It's an absolute jerk. I know Kelleher's injured, that can't be out, but Kelleher was supposed to be going out on loan anyway. So I don't know why we're still going into this season with Adjan as a backup keeper. That I'd rather stick Milner in there.
No, I know what you mean. It is squeaky bum time every time he's in goal, and the crazy thing is he does pull off great saves sometimes, but then just ridiculous other things. He's like a parody Adrian. So with pre-season, then, do you feel like the team's well equipped to go into the new season, Drew? Do you think that we've got enough to challenge the same way in what we did last season?
Yeah, I do, because I think the quality is there. I think we have enough, phrase gets used a lot, but arrows in the quiver to hurt teams. And I think we're that much better than every other team in the league that will be able to get right into the league. I think there's a hunger and excitement, especially from the likes of someone like Salah. I mean, let's be honest, we had Luis Suarez carry the entire team to a title run that year. And that is done, and we don't have that situation where we're relying on just one player. I think the Diaz option gives us a lot of creativity. Salah fit and firing is, best player in the league. Nunez offers us a different dimension. I think Jota is a huge miss. Like I want to get that out there. I think his, just having him as an option is immense, to be able to have a poacher that can just hit the back of the net on most occasions. So I think he's a miss. But then you add the likes of Carvalho and Elliott in there. I think we have more options to attack opposition, and I think we're just that much better than most other teams. Again, I go back to the preseason, is just getting fit enough to get ready for the start of the season, and I think that's probably a hallmark of a Jurgen Klopp team in the past few years, is just having a fitness levels at ridiculous heights. So I have no worries with us going into the start of the season. I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll absolutely blitz Fulham, but just looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, with pre-season, sometimes maybe managers think of it as we don't want to show too much in pre-season, so teams can't get a idea of what way we're going to play, especially if there's going to be a change of tactic or something like that. What about you, Day? Do you think that the team's in a position to be able to take last season's form into the new season?
I think it helps with our fixture list, especially at the start. I mean, we've got Fulham, we've got Brentford after that. I've got Brentford in mid, or Brighton.
Do you know, I'm not 100% of the second game is.
Then we've got my third game.
Been thinking of the first game so much.
Yeah. So we've got Fulham, then we've got my United third game as well. So 3 okay fixtures going into the new season is I think it helps us. It helps us because, especially that Fulham game, because you want to hit the ground running, and like I said earlier, you're not going to ask for a better team than Fulham coming up from that Championship, not expecting, it's like Norwich coming up last year, we blitzed them that first game. So we need to lay a marker down. And I think once we lay that marker down, it'll give everyone else confidence. I think it's a very important game for Nunez, like I said earlier. I think if he gets a goal or two, that's what he needs to really kick his Liverpool career up and running. But if he don't, then we could be seeing like Peter Crouch didn't score for ages. It could be one of them. I think the fixture list has helped Liverpool so far.
And with that, you seen the sides we put out yesterday, the first 11 was quite a young one. So it did look as if the second 11 had started the Community Shield, and obviously we've got the friendly against Strasbourg the day after. So I imagine that'd be a completely different 11 to what will be the game against City. So do you think the second half team will be the team against Manchester City on Saturday, or do you think there may be 1 or 2 players from the first half that might start on Saturday?
No, I think it's going to be that final 30-minute team to start. I think that kind of gives Klopp an idea of, starting the season, who is his best 11. And I think we have a lot of subs for the Community Shield. Correct me if I'm wrong, but more
it's a full list, I think, like a friendly.
Yeah, so with that the case, I think he'll give it a go from the first half, put in the starting 11, and then maybe tinker with it after that. But I think it's at the point of the season where you want to see what your best team is. And I think that squad that started the game are people on like the cusp of playing or the cusp of starting or have an opportunity to throw their name in the hat. So I think that will be the game on the following day too, is maybe give all the youngsters a shout and maybe give some cameos to players on the fringe. But yeah, I think we have more than enough to blitz most teams in the league. Damon said that the starting fixture list helps us out a lot. I think one of the things I also saw was that most of the top clubs that we play in the first half of the season are away, which for me is a good thing because maybe they're not settled in, maybe they haven't had everything click and know their best team when we're playing them, versus second half of the season, like games at home, I think will be a huge advantage. Just looking back to the time when we had to travel to Tottenham for that. Or was that Tottenham? Or were we playing home when we drew them?
I don't
know. I don't know. There you go. I guess it doesn't matter. But I think that it should matter. But yeah, I think the starting 11 is going to be most of the guys that we already know. I don't think anyone new is really getting into the starting 11 gets City. I'll be surprised if they do.
What about you, Damon? Do you think it'll be the starting 11 of the second half yesterday, or do you think there might be one or two players who might sneak in from the first half to start?
I don't think there's no way Núñez starts, to be honest, just because of how much we paid for him. I think he's got to start him. I think he's got to get him in and just get him. Hopefully, he scores. I think it's one of them. It's some players you can bring in and sort of gel in, but at the end of the day, we ain't got that proper striker now. Jota's injured. Firmino's really not that proper striker anymore, and Mane's gone. So I think he will play Núñez, and I think Carvalho has done more than enough to really deserve a start. And if he's going to start any game, why not be like a glorified friendly?
He did look good yesterday, Carvalho. But I'll move off pre-season and move on to the next topic, which Klopp's in an interview yesterday after the game and said that Núñez is going to need time to adjust to play the way Liverpool play. Obviously, moving from Benfica, but what have you made of his pre-season so far, Drew? How do you think he's been settling?
I think that's the key word there, is settling. I think hasn't quite settled. I think it's a mix of him getting used to how we play and then our players getting used to how he plays. I think there's that kind of like he doesn't fit in. He's not like slotting right in like a Diaz, where you can he's on a wing where you can give him the ball and say like, hey, what can you add? He's a focal point up front, and that's not something we've really played with consistently in the past few years. So, we're used to Firmino dropping and linking up, and that's one part of Núñez's game that I think will need a lot of work, is his almost triangle passing, because he doesn't look to be that quick or that delicate when he's making quick touches. I think he's misplaced a lot of short passes to play someone in. So I think it's just him getting used to it, getting settled down. I think he has to do it as quickly as possible, like Damon said. But I think Klopp saying that he's going to take time to settle in kind of gives you a preview of how Klopp's going to approach it. That's why I don't think Núñez will start on Saturday. But who knows? But he's shown some quality. I think the one thing that is absolutely brilliant about his game is that he can find the back of the net. He can score. And I think, someone like Firmino, it almost seems like he's shy of net at times. He won't take a shot. He'll look to pass it that one extra time. And I think that's really poor quality in any player, is to not want to score when you have a shot. You're looking to pass it. You're looking for someone else to take the responsibility to put it in the back of the net. I think that's where Salah thrives, is he's I don't care if I miss, I'm taking the shot. Which
you take it off,
yeah, exactly. It can be frustrating, but at the same time, that's as a forward player. You need to have that confidence to be
like
able
an
to
animal
go,
instinct, isn't it? It's like an animal instinct,
Yeah.
and that's what you need as a forward.
Yeah, and Nunez has that, so I'm excited to see someone who's not afraid to take like 10 shots a game.
All great strikers have that in them. I mean, people have a go at Ronaldo. I've seen it before where another player on his team scored and he threw his hands up because he wanted to be passed the ball to score instead. But that is usually what makes them players great, is the hunger just to score, score, score. You're right, it is good that he's not scared to miss a chance and then have another goal. What about you though, Damon? Obviously, he's barely played over 90 minutes combined and has scored 4 goals, but looks like there's critics out there. What have you made of his pre-season?
Apart from the Leipzig game, he hasn't really been pulling up trees, has it? I think it's because we know what he's capable of. That's what's annoying. We played him last year in Champions League, and even he had like 3 offside goals. He literally scored every one of them. Like, it was the most clinical thing I've ever seen in Anfield since Prime Sturridge. We hadn't seen that clinical for a long time. Every single shot went in, and now that we've seen that, missing easy chances like he did last night, he could have had hat-trick first half last night, and we were like, wow, what is this? Why is this player? This isn't the player that we saw last year. But he has got it. We know he's got it, and you don't lose it overnight unless you go to Chelsea. All the top strikers do that when they go there. So, but let's have a look. I think we've got Fulham first game of the season. So, like I said, he can't have a better game to really hit the ground running, and I think it's a confidence thing for him. So I think he'll get over 20 goals this season if he gets his confidence.
Andrew, what do you make of Klopp's comments that it'll take time for him to adjust? Do you think it's a ploy to shock teams into thinking he hasn't quite adjusted and then he's going to be more than ready? Or do you think he's trying to temper expectations of fans so there's not too much pressure on him from the get-go?
I think it's the latter. Klopp is definitely in the past has shown it too, where he's like, give the player time, let them settle in. And if they pop right into the team like Diaz or Jota, it's like, all the better for it. But I think he tries to, behind the scenes, like take away as much focus and pressure as possible. And I was of the opinion that Darwin Nunez has to start, like Damo, I was saying. Like, if you buy a player for 80 million pounds, he's got to go right into the team. But I just see like how he's doing in preseason and Klopp's interviews. Like, it makes it seem more likely to me that he's going to try to bed him in over a slower period. But at the same time, I think the only player in front of him at the moment is Firmino. And Firmino, for me, did not have a great season last year. I know he put up numbers by the end of it and had some crucial goals, but I don't know what his expiration date is for starting every game this season. I wouldn't, like, if we were starting him the entire season, I don't think that's a good sign. I think Jota, and here's where we miss Jota a lot. Because I think at the end of the day, if we're scoring goals and beating teams left and right, no one's going to care. And I think that helps Darwin settle in. Like, that's where I think if we're up 2-0 and, Darwin comes in on 60 minutes, then it's kind of like a free punch at Fulham to get your confidence up. I think that might be the route that Klopp takes, is like, let's put him in moments like that and then put him in starting after he gets his confidence up. Because from preseason, it doesn't look like he has the highest confidence.
And what about you, Damon? Do you think Klopp might be trying to trick teams into thinking he's not ready, or do you agree with Drew that he's probably trying to lower the expectation level so the pressure isn't too high for him? He is obviously still a young lad.
I think that's what it is. It's just trying to take the pressure off him, and that's the best thing that Klopp can do, is take the pressure off him in public eye, because you've seen what criticism is getting from other fans. I don't know why people like Man United fans are after him. Like, they need to concentrate on their own striker, Martial. So I don't know how they can. I mean, Salah with his eyes closed can do better than what their front three together. So I don't know why. They will do though, won't they? They're trying to get banter. They're trying to criticize. They're trying to get into his head. But what Klopp needs to do then is take it off his head, and that's exactly what he's doing. I think he does see him as a first teamer, and even when Jota comes back, I can't see Jota getting into the team unless Nunez is still playing like that, I still can't see Jota getting into the team if Nunez is firing, because he's a different sort of player to Jota. Jota's not a proper number 9 like a Nunez, and I think that's where the club wants to go now with a proper number 9. So he's done the right thing as Klopp. He's done absolutely the right thing by taking the pressure off him. Hopefully it works. Let's see.
Yeah, like Jota's go on, sorry, Drew.
No, I was just gonna go with Jota. I'm curious to see how he comes back, because for me, that's the door open for Jota, is the striker role. I don't think he'll displace Diaz. I think at best he'd be a swap option. Kind of back to the Rafa Benitez days with, what was it, Riera and Benayoun alternating them.
Gotcha.
And I don't think that's Klopp's style. But I think the door opening for Jota is that striker role. We know he can finish, and maybe that's where he'll focus his game, where he'll be like, hey, that's the spot I can take. And if Darwin doesn't take his chance, tough luck, man. I see Jota going for that hard, because I love Jota as a player. I think his stats based on his minutes played. I think I was looking at the end of the season, he had in the 2200s in minutes, whereas Salah and Mane had 3300, 3100, and Jota had comparable stats to at least Mane. So I think he can find the back of the net. I think he does play differently. I don't think he's a natural number 9, but I think if he sees a door opening there, that he's not going to let Nunez walk in and shut him out of the first team. So I think that's a healthy competition, though, for the team, and I'm excited to see how that works out over the course of the season.
I've got to be honest, I think Jota is massively underappreciated. I think he gets a bit of a hard time of it. If you think of when Salah and Mane were in the AFCON last season, without Jota, they weren't scoring them goals. Jota was scoring a goal a game. He was brilliant, and what I think he's great at is carrying the ball up the pitch on counter-attacks. He just keeps going and beats his man with a turn of pace. So I feel a bit harsh on Jota. I feel like he's a bit underappreciated. But Saturday then, Damon, do you start Nunez or do you save him for Fulham?
I think we've got to start him. He needs a goal under his belt, and what a better game to get a goal in than against City. If he can get a goal in that game, what more confidence does he need than that? He's got Haaland against him as well on Saturday, so that's your versus for the season already. Haaland versus Nunez. That's the one that I've been building up to. So he's got a point to prove, and I think what a better game to prove a point in against City. So I'd personally start him. I would start him.
What about you, Drew? Would you start Nunez on Saturday, or would you give him the Fulham game to try and get a debut goal?
I'd take Damon's point for starting him, getting him off and running. I don't think it will happen, and also for the side point where I think if we need to bring Firmino off the bench because Nunez isn't doing the job, that's going to be another nail in his confidence or another jab at it. And also, I don't think Firmino's always a game changer. I think he has at times, but I think it's more often than not. That's not who you want to be throwing on to mix things up or get a goal if you need it. But I think reverse that, where if we're playing really well but not having end product, throw on Nunez and be like, go get your goal. I think that could really, kind of release the floodgates and just have him really charge and excite the crowd. So I'd rather see him get a 20-minute, 30-minute cameo, or you just see him go, and he has a smaller chance to really captivate the fan base and showcase what he can do, versus potentially having Man City dominate the ball and have him nowhere near in the game, just far and few between, with fresh City legs. So I think that would be playing into how Klopp has kind of eased the pressure off him. I think at least that's how they'll approach the City game, but who knows? I'll see him in the starting 11 and give him my full support if that's the case.
I can see both points. To be fair, I understand Damon saying Nunes gets off to a good start against City. What better stage and better team to do it against? Champions and at Wembley. But then I also see your side through. I can see the appeal of him coming on for 20 minutes and just turning it up. Whereas if he's had a bit of a quiet hour or 70 minutes, it just builds that additional pressure. So be interesting to see what Klopp does go with. And Jen in the comments said that my dog, yeah, it is. Apologies if you heard him. So I'll move on to the next topic now. We covered this Tuesday, but the only reason I want to go over it again is because there's new reports today that suggest that the Firmino deal to Juventus is closer than what people think, and it's apparently nearly a done deal. Now, I personally don't think it's a goer, but reports abroad from Brazil think it's nearly done. So, Damon, if Firmino does go and Liverpool don't sign anyone, do we have enough?
I'll buy it, mate. I'll buy it, honestly. I'll buy it. And I'm not talking about Man United standing outside the megastar riot. I'm talking about riot. Like I'll be fuming if we did that. If we let 4 forwards go and sign Nunes, that's it. I mean, that's just absolutely that's just ridiculous. There's no way that's going to happen. The only way Firmino goes is if we replace him. I'm not gutted that Firmino's going in a way in terms of for this season and the season after. I'm gutted that because he's a Liverpool legend at the end of the day. But if he went, I won't be crying about it as long as we got a replacement in. But if we don't get a replacement in, then there'll be hell to pay.
And what about you, Drew? I don't believe the rumours myself. But if Firmino was to leave this window, do you still think Liverpool have enough to be able to challenge on all fronts?
Both Darwin and Jota could not get injuries. It'd be the defense situation of a couple years ago, but for forwards, I think that'd be a terrible situation to be in. I agree with Damo. We'd have to get someone in. But I also agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. Then Klopp came out and said that he's a crucial part of the team. A photo of him like hugging him like it's some problem photo. It doesn't look like Firmino's going anywhere for this season at the very least. Brazil news sources too. I feel like they never really liked Liverpool anyway, or they don't like Firmino. But I don't think we're selling him. And if we do, we'd have to replace him with someone of experience.
With that then, Damo, let's say Firmino does go. Who would you want to replace him, or is there someone within the squad that you think can replace him?
It's hard, isn't it? We could throw names out all day, but we've got to know this club, and this club, they ain't going to pay for them. Me and you were talking about it earlier, weren't we, about Christopher Nkunku? How perfect would Nkunku be for a Firmino replacement? He could play at number 10, he could play out wide, and he could also, if Nunes isn't firing, he's taking over Nunes. There's no doubt about that. So there's players out there. I've been looking at Martin Terry a little bit from Rennes. I know he's a decent player, and I think he's at the right age where he don't mind sort of coming in and challenging Nunes rather than being a first teamer. So it's a tough one because I haven't really been looking into it. I didn't think we'd be looking for another forward this summer, so I haven't really been doing my research on it as much. But Firmino, if he plays like last season, I think there's plenty of upgrades around Europe. And it's up to the scouts to find those replacements because he wasn't amazing last year, was he? Let's be honest. I think what really worried me about Firmino last year is not the fact that his goals, they're always dry anyway, and he had a better goal record than normal last season. But it was just his link-up play and everything like that, and his passing wasn't on it at all. It's like it wasn't the Firmino that we're used to seeing. As soon as he loses that, what does Firmino bring to the game? Because he don't either bring any goals. So I'm not going to cry if he goes. And there is players out there. Nkunku is the one for me, but it ain't going to happen, is it? Come on.
Would y'all take Timo?
Nope.
Timo Werner?
Timo Werner.
We've had this, haven't we? We've had this chat. Timo Werner. Oh.
He's apparently going to Newcastle on loan. They're rumours.
Depending what Werner you get. If you get Chelsea Werner, you don't know, do you? You really don't know. I think Chelsea just ruin players like that sometimes. I mean, look at Shevchenko when they were pathetic. I said it earlier, didn't I, about Chelsea ruining strikers. Fernando Torres, Shevchenko, look how many you can go through. Adrian Mutu. You know, those sort of players were absolute ballers elsewhere.
Morata.
Go to Chelsea. Exactly, there's so many. There's only the ones like Drogba and Costa, the only ones that you can think of in the last 20 years. Chelsea really hit running. Werner, Werner or nothing, I'd probably take Werner. But that's not really much of an option, is it?
And what about you, Drew? If we are to replace Firmino, would your choice be Werner, or do you agree with Jen and we bring back Lord Origi?
As much as the nostalgia and renting classes would say yes, like I'd say objectively, he had chances and he never cemented a first team role. So as much as he has legendary status when he walks the streets of Liverpool, he was never going to be the starting number 9. So I think we'd have to look elsewhere. I'm a huge fan of Nkunku. If we could get him, I'd take him regardless of the situation. I'm curious with Timo Werner, since we were interested in him, like Klopp was interested in him, and I watched him a lot when he was on Leipzig because I wanted us to get him. And as Damo said, like I'm not surprised he flopped at Chelsea. But I'd be curious, especially replacing Firmino, where you're like he's not an expected goal scorer. I think Werner has a lot of underappreciated intangibles that don't get reflected in stats. I think he makes very good runs. I think he draws attentions away. I think his speed is quite good. I think it's primarily confidence for him that's lacking. But let's just hope Firmino stays because that solves one less headache for start of the season.
With that, Halo asked earlier in the chat whether Firmino should get a new contract. Damo, I know we've gone over this before, but obviously because the rumours have came out again today, what's your take on the Firmino contract situation? Would you give him one, or would you let him go for free next year?
I think it's all on this season. If he does stay this season, then he's playing for a contract for me. Because if he carries on playing like he did last season, there's no way he's getting a new contract. But then again, it's this club, innit? We've given Ox, we've given Milner a new contract. We'll probably give an Ox a new contract. This is just what they do because they don't want to spend elsewhere. So,
Don't give Ox.
It was, the fact that I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me tells everything about this club. You know what I'm saying? Nah. Firmino, like I said, is this season. It's make or break for him this season. If he does stay, that's if he does stay. We don't know yet. So,
Andrew, what about you, mate? Would you give him a new contract, or would you say at the end of it, you've been a legend, thanks for everything, go wherever you want to go now?
I think you solved the position of who replaces Firmino. It's got to be Ox and the false 9 to make Jay's dreams come true. But
don't make me swear continuously on this stream.
I still have faith in the Ox. I hope he comes back from injury, gets a run, but I'm not banking my mortgage on him. But as for Firmino, I think we talked about it in the other stream. I agree with Damon. I think he's playing for his career at Liverpool for this season. I think, like you said, if he played like he did last season, that's not enough to warrant a new contract. And regardless of what he does, if he does renew, his age, I think he has to take it on reduced terms because he's the 6th highest player at the club. And especially if he's not going to be our starter for the next 3 seasons. He's not even going to be our starter this season if unless Nunez and Jota are injured or Nunez has yet to settle in. That's the only way he starts. I don't see him starting, and you can't pay him top wages to be a rotation player. So I think regardless of how he does this season, if we extend, I hope we do extend because he does offer something different. And I don't think he's an easy replacement, or actually maybe getting in Nkunku and just completely negates that because I think that could be the long-term future. But he has to be brought on for reduced wages if if we do sign him for another contract. And I wouldn't want it to be an extremely long contract either, maybe 2-3 years max.
Well, I'm fully behind Jen on the get rid of Ox campaign. And I completely agree with you, Drew, about except for the Ox part, obviously, and the Firmino contract. I think if he does something similar to Milner, where he reduces his terms, and even if it's only 1 year with an additional option, that's fine. But I don't think Firmino warrants the same pay and a bumper deal. So I'm with you on that, mate. Completely agree. Just a comment from Christian before we finish up on the Ronaldo thing. He said, do you think Calvin Ramsey and Maguire might get some game time this year? Maguire's look quite good going forward in pre-season, although his crossing doesn't look so good. He does the hard path and then can't seem to cross. But I'll put that up to either of you. Do either of you see them getting much game time this season?
Calvin Ramsey, it's I want to say about Calvin Ramsey. We haven't seen him, have we? Because he's been injured.
Yeah.
We haven't really had the chance to see him that much. But yeah, I think, like you said, it's good going forward, but when he gets forward, he doesn't do what with it. So I think when we've got the best right back in the world, especially attacking wise, the best right back in God knows how long attacking wise, it's hard. You're going to compare him, aren't you? You don't want to compare him, but you are going to compare him because that's what you used to see in a Liverpool shirt on the right back, and any sort of crossing is probably not up to the standard. And when Mbaye didn't really put in any decent cross at all, I mean, it's just not good enough, is it? I think his defending was okay, and like I said, his running forward was all right, but I think he needs to improve on that. Regarding Calvin Ramsey, it's hard to say because he hasn't played, and I think he will be the one that will get game time if out of the two, and that will probably be Cups. But like I said, you have to wait until he gets fit and see what he's like.
It's reassuring though, isn't it, Drew, to know? I know obviously we just said Maguire looked good defensively and getting forward, except for his delivery, but it's good to know that if something does happen to Trent or Calvin Ramsey, that we have got an additional option there, someone who looks like they could do a half decent job if they were called upon for a couple of games.
I honestly wouldn't throw him in. I wouldn't throw in Ramsey either until I see him. I think that's such a vital role in our starting 11 that you can't trust someone who hasn't been put to the test. I think Nico Williams is the prime example of that. Like, he impressed in some League Cup games, but he did terribly when called upon in important fixtures. And I think that's where you, as much as I think, Foden took James Milner's right back card and forced him into right back retirement. I think unless you're playing a top team like that, I'd put Milner at right back, because as much as Mbaye excited me, I think I really loved his passion and his energy going forward, his willingness to take people on, all positive attributes. I think he's far from the finished product. I think he panics. I think if you guys remember that first game against Manchester United's first goal came from a poor clearance from him, where he just had a poor touch in the box, gave it right back to them, and they fired it in. I think he's had a few of those moments where I think if he's in the unit of defense, he can handle himself pretty well, but I think he's shown that he can panic. I think if you look back, he's had some pretty poor clearances, some pretty poor touches in that part of the field, and I just think that role is so vital to the team that you don't throw a youngster in. If Trent's injured, you throw Hendo back there, you throw Milner back there, you throw Gomez. Actually, there you go, Gomez. They are not getting in ahead of Gomez at right back. We know he can do the job. He's done it before. So, that's it for me.
All right, so we'll move on to the final topic before we finish. It's only a little one, but Gabby Agbonlahor was on TalkSport yesterday, and obviously we all know Ronaldo's situation. He wants out of Man United, as any player with the brain does. But Gabby Agbonlahor said he thinks that if Liverpool came calling, Ronaldo would come to Liverpool. So this isn't a deal Liverpool would ever be interested in on any basis, but what do you make of that team? And do you think if Ronaldo was given the opportunity to sign for Liverpool, that it'd be one that he'd take?
I think he would take it, because as I think we've seen in the last couple of days, that what he's allowed to lie, where he's allowed to lie is his loyalty lies with him and him only. You know, he wants to become the best ever, and he wants the trophies, he wants the goals. And what a better team than Liverpool to go get the trophies and goals right now, you know. But you know, I'll create a scenario here. Last game of the season, we're lifting the league, and Ronaldo's got 25 goals for Liverpool, lifting the league with Liverpool. Just imagine, United fans, just imagine for 1 second the Manchester United fans and what the hurt they're feeling. Tell me that you won't want Ronaldo at Liverpool. There's no way. I don't care how much you don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like Man United. I don't like it. I've not liked him for years. You know, but to take him from Man United and to have him lifting a trophy for Liverpool, lifting the Premier League or Champions League with Liverpool would be the ultimate. Wow, that would be unbelievable. Unbelievable. It'd be a nice revenge for Michael Owen. That's what it would be. Because when Michael Owen went to Man United, that was an absolute killer blow. You know, Michael Owen was like a child hero for me when I was younger. They were at the right age where I looked up to the players like that. And when he went to Man United, you're thinking, you just spoil it all. To take Ronaldo off Man United and do that and win some trophies with him, that would be just for the banter. Just for the banter. And he would score loads in this team. With Trent and Robbo providing crosses. Someone that can actually cross. The guy scored 18 goals with Wan-Bissaka crossing. Come on. It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Bear in mind as well, if Liverpool were to win the league with Ronaldo, it would be number 20 as well.
Exactly
which
that.
Is
exactly that. I mean,
United's big 20 times shout.
Imagine
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think you might have talked me into wanting them, Damon.
Honestly, you'd be mad not to take him. Just for the banter alone. It just him coming to Man United, him coming to Liverpool would just annoy Man United fans. They would be livid, and I'd be there for that. I'd be refreshing Twitter every 2 seconds. And if we were to win the title with him and Champions League with him, wow, it'd be Man United. You know, you wouldn't be able to see. You wouldn't be seeing him for decades.
I think he'd need to have he'd need to have a massive jaw injury before his transfer. I'm talking where he'd need to wire his jaw shut, and like he'd need to be fed through a tube so he can't talk for his entire stint at Liverpool. If that happens,
well, he says, I love it here. It's the best club I've ever played
for. he'll have to settle for like little hearts, you know, like or touching the badge. Like I don't want to hear him talk at all. But that
Damo would need the same surgery to stop him from smiling. What about you then, Drew? It sounds like a perfect move for Ronaldo, but surely it's the opposite of that for Liverpool.
I'm like, if you put biases aside and my hate for him, like there's a reason I said I'd hope he'd get a severe jaw injury, because I hate like everything that he spews out. Like it's so selfish. Like I admire his like worth ethic. I admire his his effort for the game. Like I think that's what you love to see in a player. It's just that commitment to your own performance. I think he's an extremely selfish human being, which I wouldn't want in the team. I think, like Damon said, though, like I think if we're being honest, take off the Liverpool badge, would he want to join a club like Liverpool? The answer is yes. And it looks like, just seems like no one really wants him. You know, no one wants to take the gamble. And if you look of where he could go, it's like PSG, you know, they already have stacked squad. Like, are you really going to try to fit in someone else? Juventus, he already did that. Bayern, I guess, is the option that looks like it could be like the way to go. But I think the toxicity is what would prevent me.
I think we could take the gamble.
You take the what?
I think we could actually take the gamble. What have we got to lose?
I just wouldn't want to for the toxicity of him at the club. I wouldn't want his ego and his, you know, his vibe in the dressing room.
I think our players matches ambitions, though, don't they? I think the problem is at Man United, the players around him, like Maguire, they've not won all. So he's not on the same level as them. When he comes to Liverpool, he's in there with serial winners now. So they're on the same basis. And Klopp wouldn't put up with that anyway. As soon as he sees something happen, he'll get him out anyway. I trust Klopp in really managing that really well, if I'm honest.
So, Damo, if it comes to it, and you had the choice, yes or no for Ronaldo, would you take him?
Yeah, especially a good wage. If that's 200 grand, if it take that, I would actually take him just to annoy United fans.
And I probably get that in appearance fees, mate. 200k.
I think he would give us a good percentage increase in terms of winning the league. I really do.
Andrew, what about you, mate? If it did come down to it, Ronaldo, yes or no?
Cut his tongue out as part of his signing on contract, and yeah, I'd take him.
Oh, I'm surprised. Well, that's the end of the topics. To be fair, we finished on a little what if or maybe. I don't ever see that happening. I think he's far too egotistical for our team, and obviously the United Liverpool hatred. But the interesting thing on that is obviously the tragic thing that happened with his baby. It was Liverpool fans that obviously commemorated that first. So I actually think Liverpool probably has a little special place in his heart, like his family said. But I don't think it's a goer anyway. But it will be interesting to see where he ends up. I'd like to see him with Messi at PSG because who wouldn't want to see that? No, Drew.
I mean, for them, their implosion, sure, but
oh yeah, and I just need to say they played together. Like they wouldn't win nothing.
They're not gonna win anything anyway. But yeah, throw in another, eggshell onto their plan.
They ain't got enough feet as it is.
Well, that's us for today anyway. We've covered everything. So if you are new to the channel or you're just there as a one-off, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel because it does help us out a lot. And we'll be back again tomorrow with one of our daily streams at 7:30. So thanks for watching, everyone, and see you again next time.